Hello, Montessorians. Thank you for joining us for another session of our coaching calls. And I just remembered that I'm not actually supposed to introduce them because it's Deneen's show now. Deneen, take it away.
No, that's okay. You did a fine job. So we are doing a hot seat today. We've got Emily here, and Emily, we're so excited to have you. I know you were talking with Cossum just before this to prepare, so I know he has an outline, but we're so excited to have you here and join us for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So we do have some live attendees as well, so if you're here, feel free to chat in some of your comments, questions. We'll be sure to keep an eye on that as well. But Cossum, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, and to the live attendees, if you ever want to volunteer to be in the hot seat, A, you give epic amounts of value to our community, so we're super grateful to you, and to you, Emily. Thank you so much. And then B, we always make sure to make it up to you. So Emily's going to get something super awesome by the end of this call, hopefully, and we'll figure out what that is as we go.
Okay, great.
Emily, tell me about Discovery Montessori. What's the story there? What's the background?
So we are a small school located in a little bit south of Atlanta, near the airport, in a city called Hapeville. It's a very small town USA, really, very walkable. Our school has been in existence for 3 years. It's our third school year. And there was a previous existing school, and when the owner of that school decided to close, I had been the education director there for 7 years. And Kim, who's my business partner, was the parent there, and she and I decided to partner and create Discovery Montessori. So that year, all but maybe 3 or 4 families came with us, and 2 staff members didn't come, but everybody else did. And so it was nice. It was a year that we needed just to keep things. So as you can imagine, the first 3 years, we've been very focused on being solvent. So I think we're finally to the place, because, true to the 3-year Montessori cycle, where we can even start thinking about things like seem so far out there away concepts as a website and advertising and marketing, that kind of thing. So that's why I volunteered to be in the hot seat.
Well, I'm really glad you did, and hopefully we're going to make it worth your while. I spent some time on your website before this call, obviously, so that I was prepared. And I love it. I think you've done a great job. I've got some improvement recommendations, and I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. But I'd love to know, where did the website come from? Who built it for you?
So we have, as most Montessori schools, parent volunteer hours. And we had a dad who was willing to do it for us, and he did. I'm pretty sure it's WordPress. And Kim, who's my business partner, has maintained it. That's not her background. She has done a phenomenal job with it. It's, we wanted something that was up, that parents, could check us out, right quick, get them in the door.
Right.
And she really dedicated a lot of time, learned WordPress, had a lot of calls with the dad who had built it for us, and she's kind of maintained it from there.
That's
so
great.
She's done a great job with it.
And that's hard to do. I've noticed a lot of schools are in that zone where the website came from a friendly parent, and now it's in their lap, and they have to kind of figure out how to navigate that.
Exactly.
Yeah, Deneen, you've been talking to a lot of smaller schools recently, haven't you? Is that the normal story you hear too? That's kind of the template.
Yeah, it is, because you're looking for your volunteers and your
Right.
parents, and you have a lot of eager parents. I think what can get tricky too is depending on the system that was set up and who's hosting it and what pages are available. And there's a lot of ins and outs of that. And I know you're on WordPress, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a learning curve with WordPress too, which we know our members have gone through that as well. But I mean, it looks like you've done such an amazing job with your website. So I'm excited to see a little bit more about what you have in there.
Thank you, and I'll make sure I share that with Kim.
Yeah, she's done it really well. In question there too, maybe for an asset, I don't know if this is of value or not, Deneen, but what if we created like a parent volunteer packet, and we taught the parent volunteers how to do what it is that they're going to do?
Yes.
So you can say like, hey, parent volunteer, I know you're going to build my website. Here are the things that I want.
It's a great idea.
All right, making a note.
Yeah, and you think about it, when you're doing website building, depending on your background, it can be a really beautiful website, but it may be not serving your purpose of what you really want. So thinking through the purpose of your website and how you want to articulate that. Yeah, having a document, like even just like a one pager, you know, something super simple that gives the parent volunteer some framework to work in.
That's a great idea.
You know what I'll do is I'll take our 16 must-haves and I'll make it a checklist.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
the easiest thing. And to your point, Deneen, I've also noticed, I've been doing digital marketing for 13 years, and we drive, you know, my day job, so to speak, is driving Google ads for really competitive industries. And I can tell you simplicity beats aesthetics every single time.
Mm.
Every single time. It's unreal. And I've seen it, you know, I mean, some really major organizations spend massive amounts of money on sites, and then we'll just go in there and, you know, I mean, we've got a hatchet and we're cutting things off and taking them away, and they're freaking out, but then I'll show them the numbers, like, you know, simple over beautiful, when possible have both, but people really need simplicity. And so that's an emphasis that I would make for Montessori school websites especially.
Mm-hmm. Well, simplicity makes it easier to make a decision, right? So if the first, which we always, conversion action is huge when you're scheduling a tour. So if you can go to that first, and then you can start to peel the layers off, I think that just positions your prospects easier.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome. I'm going to share my screen, and y'all let me know when you can see it. All right. Are these your photographs?
So they are. I actually got my cousin to do a huge favor, and she came and took all the pictures. She's a photographer.
They're amazing. So that was going to be one of the first things that I wanted to say is I just think the photos are so good.
Thank you.
And one note to schools is don't let the lack of photographs stop you. If you don't have a cousin who's a professional photographer,
Right.
Your iPhone, if you bought your iPhone in the last 2 or 3 years, is as good as any digital camera has been in the last decade. So, you know, I mean, just go in and snap some photos. They're so much more effective if they're actually of your school than they are if they're stock photos. There's a term in marketing called banner blindness. And when people see stock photos, we have an innate ability of seeing, you know, the difference between stock and real. And stock photos just immediately disassociate. Now you just feel it's so impersonal. So I think your personal photos are so well done.
Thank you.
The very first thing I'm going to say, and this is actually going to come from the call we had with Dave Albano, is we have to have a call to action above the fold. So I'm a parent. I'm shopping and searching around, and you need to tell me what it is that you want me to do. What's the very next step to take? How do I engage? And so my recommendation would be schedule a tour. And I would actually put, I'd have like a button, just bam, right here, you know, and you can, they don't have to be sparse. It can be schedule it, you know, come in to schedule a personal one-on-one tour with our head of school. And you know, I mean, that's a lot of context for a button, but what's nice is you're letting people know exactly what it is they're going to get. And then once they click on that, make sure that there's no additional barrier. What I've noticed some schools do is they'll have a schedule a tour button, and then they take the user to a page that tells them why they should schedule a tour, and which is fine, but they already want to schedule a tour. So let's take them to the schedule a tour page, and the why schedule a tour could be somewhere else.
That makes sense.
Oops, I lost it. Move that. The next thing I'd like to see is your phone number somewhere, if possible, in your header. And the reason for that is you're going to have those parents that are just ready to engage. You're also going to have existing parents. And I think that, you know, people tend to look in the header for primary contact information. So look for phone numbers, emails, addresses. You can't always fit all of those things in, but I'll give you an example of a site that I think has done really, really well at this. And this is on WordPress. And this is actually, I think, something that you could probably maybe install into your theme as a plugin. But you'll notice on Bergamo's site, he's got phone number, email, and then some additional sort of subsequent tertiary calls to action. And then another example might be, here's one of our template sites. You'll see that we've got our hero image, a really strong call to action, and then we have our phone number here in the top right-hand corner. So if that's possible, that'd be great. Sometimes it's not possible inside of your theme.
Okay.
Any comments on the hero image?
No, I think with just a few of those tweaks, you might see a lot more engagement with your website. I really love that.
I absolutely agree with that.
And we have a lot of data for that too. Like this is what we do with our members right now, where we make sure we have this even before we run Google Ads for them. So this works really well, right, Qasim?
Absolutely. We have a school here in Phoenix, and I have permission to use them as an example. It's Aldea Montessori. And Donna at Aldea, the only change we made, we hadn't started running ads yet, the only change we made was adding a primary CTA and a lead magnet to her website. And I mean, you should hear her talk about just the night and day difference in terms of the quantity of leads she was getting, and then, you know, also the quality. Because you end up, I think, with a better engagement when a parent has walked through a process that you've defined, as opposed to them just kind of meandering through and sort of falling backwards into it. But I think this is so well done. One note that I will make is we've seen that the images that work the best are children at work. So anytime you have a kid that's just spiking the camera and smiling, those are great, but they don't tend to engage quite as well. And I've noticed that most of your images, like this little guy here with the screwdriver and this little guy here with his pencil, children at work, which that's exactly what you want to see. So I think your images are awesome. I love the quote that you've chosen. And I think that you've done your hero image perfectly well. A lot of schools have scrolling banners. And we don't want to do that. Going back to banner blindness, the minute, and we've seen this in our screen recordings, the minute people see scrolling banners, they just skip it. But if they see our hero image, they know, oh, this is what you want me to look at for a moment. And I think you've done a really good job kind of branding yourself here.
Thank you.
It's interesting. I would love potentially to switch these two sections. So this row here, I would bring this up, and the welcome I would bring down. And I know that seems counterintuitive because the narrative that you're telling is kind of an introduction, but the reason I would do that is because when I land on the screen, I have a normal 20-inch desktop computer screen. I don't see any of your calls to action. And so we're going to have a primary call to action here, but that's only for parents that are really ready to engage. For parents that need a little bit more, coaxing or want to learn a little bit more, I'd want them to know that there's more context coming. And I want to plant that seed early. And so letting them know, hey, these are some of the subsequent steps that you can take, I think could help just from an engagement standpoint, kind of help them funnel. Any challenge on that? Agree, disagree?
No, I can see that. So when I would scroll down, I would only see this top for the welcome discovery. You think should be in the middle or still as the top?
No, ma'am. I think Welcome to Discovery Montessori, I would actually bring that below.
Get down, and so then the 3 pictures there should be up. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Qasim, what do you think about the call to action? So I think we brought this up with Heidi before, where we wanted the number one call to action to stand out more than the other ones. Anything on that regarding these ones?
That's a great note. So there's something called the isolation effect, and it actually plays into banner blindness again. Heidi's, she did a hot seat with Dave, and all 4 of her buttons here were blue. And Dave said, hey, it's great that you have these calls to action. It's great that you have so many, but I don't know which one's most important, and it's a little overwhelming. So, and what Heidi did is she came in here and she made it yellow. And what's so funny is we do a website review of every client that we have on our, whose website we manage. We review their site monthly. My maintenance team tagged me and said, hey, this button is off. Like there's something wrong with this, which I liked because it let me know, like they jumped on the site and it just immediately jumped out at them. Like, what's wrong with this button? Why is it so different? So, and Deneen, that's such a great point. To that point, I would use the isolation effect. The call to action that you add, use the isolation effect there. The call to action here, use the isolation effect here. I think your color is going to be red. Here's why I say that is because every time I land on your site, and I've been on it all day, the first thing I see are these darn boots.
Yes.
They just pop right out at me. And there's something about, and it plays really well with the earth tones. So you've got really beautiful earth tones. You have this really beautiful brown, but there's something about red that's going to sit on top of that, not clash, but still allow you to, draw upon the isolation effect. Heidi used yellow here for, obvious reasons. It just works really well because it's a good subcolor.
Nice.
So I would make, and then this schedule today, I would make that red. And I really like, it's italicized. It's got an exclamation point. Those, believe it or not, it's really weird, but they increase engagement. It lets people know that you're human and not just a computer.
Okay.
This is a soft note. I'd add a little bit more context to your buttons.
Okay.
Schedule today is great. and there's an aesthetic issue here to where if you add context to buttons too much, the button gets too big. But oftentimes learn more isn't enough. So like find out why. Like something that might be a little compelling or a little catalytic from a thought process perspective can be helpful. I love that you have your address down here. This is great. I would link this up to Google Maps. And that's relatively easy to do. Google Maps has a really easy integration, and you can actually have an embedded map on your site if you want to. But what's nice about it is it gives people the opportunity, especially if I'm on my phone, I can click on it and I can figure out exactly where you are.
That's a good point.
Our copyright says 2019 instead of 2020. I run into this all the time with sites that we've built and managed. Everybody forgets to update this all the time forever. As a matter of fact, let me embarrass myself real quick. I bet you $1 billion Needle Marketing's is not updated. Oh, no, I took it off. I'm so smart. So here's what I was going to recommend is I've decided this year, actually, I'm not including years anymore. I think we just do copyright discovery Montessori.
Okay.
I don't know that there's much value in having the year. I think this, heralds back to like the litigious issues that you'd run into with web copyright, but there's other ways to date stamp web copyright. And it just makes it too hard to manage is my soft opinion.
All right.
I'd have a lead magnet available. And this is where the website starts to get a little busy. So feel free to temper this with your personal opinions. But what I like to see is a pop-up either in the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And I'm trying to think about who has one of these. Let me go to, so here's one of our members. And they don't pop up right away. We did not build this site incidentally, but they've been a member for a long time, so we helped add some things. But what's nice is I'm scrolling around, and as I scroll around, hopefully it happens at some point. There we go. So they say tuition will vary by program. Click here for instant access to customized rates for your child. And then I can provide my name and my email address, and bam, I get tuition rates right out of the gate. Now, you might not want to use tuition as your lead magnet. As a matter of fact, this lead magnet is what we call very, very close to the bottom of the funnel, meaning, if the sales process were a funnel and people at the top of it are learning, people at the bottom of it are ready to buy. If they want tuition rates, they're close to the bottom of the funnel, but that means you're going to capture less people because the funnel gets narrow as it goes down. So your lead magnet could be the 6 reasons Montessori will work for your child, as an example. And one of the things that I'll give you, Emily, if you'd like, is we've got an entire library of lead magnets, and because you volunteered for the hot seat, you get to pick any one that you want. And so there's 20 some odd here. I'll send you a list. Let me do this now while I'm thinking about it. And feel free to pick a lead magnet, and we'll not just give it to you, but we'll also configure it for you on your site so that you have it.
Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. But having that lead magnet is really nice too, because the other thing that you're doing is you're establishing yourself as a thought leader. So instead of just a digital brochure, now we're kind of starting to build a relationship. There's an engaging facet back and forth with this prospect. So yes, we're capturing contact information, and that's a primary goal, obviously, but you're also sort of positioning yourself in their mind as somebody who's provided them with value, which, in the world where value is, based on reciprocity, you're the first one to give. The other thing that you want to do, and this isn't really about your website as much as it is about your funnel, but as soon as they request the lead magnet, you want to drop them into an email nurture so they continue to hear from you. What do you use for email blasts right now? Are you on MailChimp?
We are not. Website. Maybe our newsletter might go out on WebChimp.
Okay, that would make sense. So we have a Montessori email nurture pre-written in our resources area. I'm going to give this to you too. You can customize the content to your heart's content. I was on the phone with a school this morning who gave me really candid and helpful feedback. They said, hey, we think the email nurture is too salesy. It doesn't provide enough value up front. And then they explained to me why. And I actually kind of agree with them. They said that we're just constantly asking people to tour, but we're not giving them a whole lot of information.
Okay.
And the disadvantage we're at Nido is we can't make a template that gives them all the information because we're not your school.
Right.
And so if you wanted to include, just honestly, it could be a link to a blog that you really like, or, a short tidbit or a little anecdote, but customize each of these emails so that they're really relevant to you and your school. And then when somebody downloads the lead magnet, the next thing you do, and we can set this up for you in MailChimp, and we will, is they drop directly into MailChimp, and then they get dripped on. And so one email every day or one email every 2 or 3 days. And as long as you're providing really epic amounts of value, what you're going to be doing is building a relationship with this prospect and then establishing yourself as a thought leader. Is that of interest to you, Emily? Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Awesome. I'm going to attach this email nurture.
Yeah, right now, I guess the only thing we use once we schedule a tour just in our, Microsoft, there's something we put at the bottom that parents get then, for right now, we're looking forward to your tour, your visit. In the meantime, you can check our website, kind of thing. But I guess that's the only thing that we have to engage people who are prospectives. But that's already after they've scheduled their tour,
Well, that's really advanced, actually. So we call it our post-tour follow-up, but it sounds like you have a post-tour follow-up in place. And that's awesome. I'd say really well done there. That's great.
Okay, thank you.
And Emily, keeping in mind too, if you do decide to take this email nurture and work with it, making sure you're focusing on the benefits of your program. Because like we said in past calls, it's really, sometimes we get into this zone of telling people how we do what we do because it's so different from what others have experienced. But when we're thinking about moving them to enrollment, we want to focus on the benefits of our program, and you can start from after they schedule a tour. And you can even use, what you're highlighting in that email sequence in what you're highlighting for your tours as well. So do you get what I'm saying? Like it's the same kind of language, and you're still speaking to the benefits of your program, and then it starts to pull in your prospects a little bit more slowly without being salesy.
Right, because I remember from the call last week, 7 points of contact. So I was looking and trying to think how many of those are we hitting. So, okay.
That's a great note, Deneen. I forget that all the time, and I'm really bad at it. It's so easy to forget what people don't know, and to start explaining them the tactical stuff. And so getting them to a point to where they can connect emotionally with what you're saying is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be nice to have a list of all those benefits that we keep hearing over and over again, so you can work off of it.
Oh, a list of all the benefits of Montessori? That would take forever. Let's do it.
Oh, I didn't know I could do that in 1 hour. Maybe. We'll see.
Awesome. I hopped over your schedule page. I don't know if we'll have enough time to go over every page, so I wanted to make sure I got to the important ones. Number one, I saw this load slowly. And site speed is going to be critically important, especially on a mobile device, because what we've seen is more than half of your traffic comes through a mobile phone.
Okay.
And even if a parent's interested, they might just be in a hurry and think to themselves, oh, I'm going to do this later, and then never do that. So another thing we'll do for you, Emily, is we're going to do a site speed assessment, and I'm going to get one of my developers to try to speed up the site.
Okay.
Let me make a note of all these things I'm promising, or I won't get to them. Okay, so far we're going to install lead magnet, figure email follow-up, speed up website. Cool. Oh, and you know what else? We'll also do all the stuff I said on the homepage. So if you want us to, we can add a call to action above the fold.
Okay.
Banner CTA. My recommendation would be to use Calendly. Do you have any interest in using Calendly?
I think Kim has looked into that, and we've started thinking about that, going live with that.
Okay. If y'all set it up, we'll install it for you.
Okay.
And it's free to use. So, it's just about adding the parameters around how you want people to schedule.
Okay. I think right now from this point, they can schedule a tour, and then it drops into info, or, an email. It'll go to an email.
Okay.
We get the information that they scheduled the tour.
My kid's 1,000 years old.
Say.
The oldest child at your school.
Hey, your birthday's coming up.
It is coming up, I know.
Very fun for you.
I'm dying. Please list 2 upcoming Wednesdays that you are available for tours. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you do your tours on Wednesdays.
Do our tours on Wednesdays, 9:30 to about 10:30. It's usually roughly an hour. It doesn't always go that long, but it depends on the questions.
I would add that context here until we're ready for Calendly, because part of my trepidation about filling out this form would be that I don't know what time on Wednesday you're asking for, so I couldn't tell you when it was that I'm available.
Okay, great.
And then I'd also add this. I actually stole from Deneen. I'd add date ranges, because people aren't going to understand our nomenclature, and so I don't even know what needle means necessarily, depending on where I am as a parent.
And Emily, if you have any flexibility on your calendar to see if you can add some more days, because it can be very limiting for prospects to only have one day to choose from. So maybe even like a Monday and a Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, that could give them more options.
You know what's funny about that is my wife, she works at a friend's business to help her friend. So her friend gets some time off, and the only time she works is Wednesday morning. So looking at this school, that would be the one time that she's not available or has to take time from work off.
So with that, what makes it a dilemma is that I'm usually the person that does the tours, and I'm also the person that does the classroom observations, and I'm also the person that gets the children that are having a moment. It's helpful for me to have, I can get support from somewhere else in the building this one moment in time. If I know every Wednesday this thing is happening. Does that make sense? Because in our administrative team, there's 3 of us. And they're great about anything. If I say, hey guys, can you take this tour? Or, can you take this child? But for a small school, our school, we I think have 96 now. We just got another student. And so that's, it's a lot of hats for one person. So that's like the sacred day. The chef cooks really good smelling food that day. It's not broccoli day on the menu. It's something with garlic and onion. All the universe has to align on tour day. So it's something I'll take into consideration, and see how I could make another day happen.
Or even giving an option and saying, if these 2 options don't work for you, collaborating with that particular individual to see when it does work for them.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And when we receive calls and I say to a person, they say, well, we're moving and we'll be in town on Thursday, kind of thing. And so I can make some things like that happen. I'm hesitant to have it where it's an option for people to schedule that.
Sure.
But I like that language of, if, let us know if, something that day doesn't work for you, and we can work something else out. I have to figure out how to, the verbiage of it.
Yeah, even just using the word accommodate, I think, we can accommodate your schedule as needed.
Thank you. I'm making notes for that.
Yeah.
I love this picture, by the way. I think it's great.
Isn't it so fun? We have child-size viewing windows that we borrowed from another school in Atlanta. We saw it and thought they were adorable. So we put them in. So if children come on the tour, which sometimes of course happens, they're able to peek in the communities as well. So it's fun.
That's great. One thing I'd like to see you add in, if possible on every page, is social proof. And really it's just get some of your, you have some parents that have been with you for a while. And what's nice is you have some parents that have been at a school prior to yours.
Yes.
And they've been able to see the difference.
Okay.
And I would draw on them and just say, hey, if you were to tell an incoming parent, about your experience or what your favorite thing is or whatever, what would you say? And then let's get some sound bites and let's put one on every page, where applicable and possible.
Okay. And so text or actual video?
If you can get video, it's the greatest thing in the world. I have never been successful in it ever.
Okay.
sadly. But so yes, ma'am. I think text is the easy sort of,
Okay.
not intrusive. But yeah, video testimonial is great, and then I would use that all day, every day.
Cool.
One comment I meant to make on your homepage and I didn't, but it's site-wide, is you want to make sure that you're using an SSL certificate. When I visit your site, Google likes to give me this little warning saying not secure. And honestly, it's really frustrating because there's nothing wrong with it. You're not collecting financial information. You're not, we're not NASA. But for whatever reason, browsers have chosen to decide to alert people that, hey, this hasn't been properly secured. And for people that don't know, that can be an issue. I've even had some browsers pop up a window saying, hey, this, just so you know, this site doesn't have an SSL certificate installed. This is generally something that your host can do. And I'd like to say with relative ease. Like, I think it's one phone call one time and they might charge you $50, but then you have an SSL certificate.
Okay. Great.
I'm going to hop over to your tuition and fees page. And this is everybody's least favorite conversation of all time.
Sure is.
What I'd love to see is gated tuition. We see a pretty significant increase in the quality of the prospects that are coming through. And then it gives you the chance to control the narrative. So instead of them coming in and being like, oh my goodness, you're more expensive than KinderCare, and leaving, they ask for information and now you can give it to them, but you can give it to them inside of a frame that says, hey, here's why you're paying for this valuable system of education and why we're actually way more valuable than any of our potential prospects or competitors.
So you recommend we pull it all down?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I'll show you just to give an example. I think Matt does a really good job here. But we'll say tuition will vary by campus. So you might say tuition will vary by program. Click here to access customized rates for your child. And all we're letting them know is we're going to send you our rates immediately, but we want to send you the rates that are applicable to you. So there's even more of an excuse here to capture email information than there would be for another lead magnet.
Okay.
And I'm just going through your programs. Okay, that makes sense. I was going to make a comment, but I'm actually withdrawing now because I understand what you've done here. It just took me a minute. I guess what I'm saying is it took me a minute to understand how to read this chart.
Okay.
And I don't think that that's an issue. I think that there's a lot of information here and people need to figure out what program they're interested in and then what their payment method is going to be. And again, if you're sending it to them, it won't be on the site. So it won't be that, it won't be doing that here. I'd recommend gating that. So, 50% of the people that we recommend this to just never do it. Just flat out refuse. They won't listen. But the people that do have a significant increase in the lead flow, it's Matt's highest performing lead magnet by a broad margin.
Interesting. Okay.
I love your story and mission. I think it's well done. I like what you've written here. I would love to see a picture, front of the school, the entire staff, something visual, just so I can start to get to know you.
Our story, our mission. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe something that symbolizes the reason you started.
That's great.
Okay.
And then the faculty page I noticed was coming soon. My rule for coming soon pages is just hide them because it always makes us look like we're incomplete. And that should be relatively easy to do in WordPress. You can just, you don't have to delete the page, but you just hide the page so that it's not,
Okay.
right out front and center.
Great.
That's the end of my list. Are there any pages, Emily, that you want to tackle directly or anything that you wanted to go over that we haven't touched on?
So there's one thing I have a question on. Do you think that there is enough diversity in our pictures? So I think it's important to engage all parents. That makes sense?
It does make sense.
Tried to do that.
I haven't seen enough of the pictures, to be honest with you, to give you
Okay.
A definitive yes or no. From memory, I don't think I've seen many little girls. I think most of the pictures I've seen have all been little boys.
Okay.
Um, I do love your images. I just think oh, there we go. I think they're phenomenal. Some of these, like I'm on your program pages and they appear to be getting cut off. Um,
Okay.
so I think that there's a frame issue here. What do you think, Deneen? You might be a better person to answer that.
So a lot of the pictures I see are individual. So I would try to vary them up with children working together, children working with adults, so that they can start to see the collaboration.
Okay. And so I guess my question is, of the things we said today, because of course I have a list, what would you say the 2 or 3 most important things I do right away?
Homepage call to action. Start using Calendly. Add a lead magnet. In
Okay.
that order.
And then be ready to get inquiries.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. How are you positioned on the Google machine? If somebody looks for you, do you come up okay?
They come up okay, I think.
Okay. Um, that's weird. I'm throwing an error here. When I go to contact us,
Contact us, an error.
yeah, it says Discovery Montessori GA says map address return error request denied. I think there's a map embedment here that's just not working.
Okay.
Let me check something. Go. Sorry. What city are you in?
Hapeville, Hapeville.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got our Google local listing here, which is great. Looks like you've updated your hours. Do these all look correct? 7 to 5:30?
Yes.
Awesome. The only thing I'd say is go in there and get some reviews, but that is something that might take time. We don't have any meta description on our site, which is easy to add in WordPress.
Say it one more time, please.
Sorry, it's called meta description, META, and there's a meta title, which is what you see here, and then a meta description, which is what you see here. And because you don't have any meta description, when somebody searches for you, your site does come up, but there's just no context.
So Discovery Montessori Academy is not our school.
Oh, look at me not being smart. I just assumed that was you. Forgive me. That's actually okay. So we're not showing up at all for our brand, which we need to do.
Okay.
I think if we connected your Google Local and embedded the map and then updated your metadata, you should be coming up because I searched for your school exactly. Yeah, for some reason, your school's site is not being indexed.
Okay.
Which we might be able to help fix. So here's what I wanted to offer you, Emily, if you don't mind. And if this isn't, you know, if this isn't appealing, let me know and we'll figure something else out. But I think we can do all of this for you. So if based off of the list I provided, if you wanted to make a punch list for me of everything that you want done, and then if you wanted to make a punch list of everything you want done on your website, period, just give me a great, big, long, ugly, ongoing, like, you know, I mean, dream big.
Oh, I love it.
What I'll do is I'll have our team, we've got a maintenance team that does website maintenance for Montessori schools, and we'll just go through and we'll just start knocking them out.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to breathe after 3 years and have this to focus on. So it's really nice. I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm excited for you. And I'm just like so impressed with what you've done. I mean, to take a school that, you know, it sounds like it wasn't going to be there and you decided to save it. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And there are not many Montessori schools. There's none in this area of Atlanta. So, so it was important to us that Montessori is available. So we're really excited to have it.
Well, we're rooting for you.
And we appreciate you guys to be able to reach out and get this type of support just in the middle of the day while people are napping, when you can, you know, eat a sandwich and get savvy on websites is amazing. So I appreciate for all the little guys. Thank you for being out here for us. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Well, and thanks for doing the hot seat. That was great.
Very welcome.
Whatever we can do to support you, let me know. And if you're watching the recording, please feel free to join us every week. We do this at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. And if you go to nitomarketing.com/coaching, you can sign up and you can be a live attendee. So you can answer or ask questions and participate in the Q&A. And like Emily did, you can volunteer for the hot seat. And then we give you a bunch of really cool free stuff.
Get a whole lot of notes.
Yeah. So Emily, I'll wait for your notes from you, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate you both.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.